Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea that reality kind of teaches you, and hopefully, or reality tries to teach you, and hopefully you learn.
Yeah. 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 It's a complicated thing because I believe that as a personal view on reality, like that's how I like to look at it when if something negative happens to me, I try to turn it in that perspective. But I also can't say, like if somebody gets cancer or somebody was abused by their father growing up or whatever, that like, oh well, you just have to accept that that's a barrier for you to deal with. Like it doesn't it's a it's an odd thing because I still believe it to be true. I still believe it to be helpful, but it can be very like misused as well for victim blaming and for justifying privilege and things like that. That like is not at all, that's not useful. That's not making good use of this particular mental tool. I think it can be useful even in those kinds of situations, potentially in that like if the person wants to use it that way, they can. But it's never something that I would want to insist somebody else believe. I
Yeah.
don't always believe it myself. Sometimes I feel very just at odds with, you know, pick something, whatever it is in my life that's bugging me that day. So, um, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you don't, I mean, so we're partially talking about moral stances and even moral emotions, and those can be used in like an aggressive way. So you want to be careful, like the Jesus quote about looking at the plank in your own eye instead of blaming the chip on someone else's shoulder. I know that's sort of a little bit, there's maybe a little bit different meaning of that, but that reminds me of just how people will use moral emotions or moral stances or lessons to sort of judge others and not work on themselves. And yeah, and
Yeah.
mm. And yeah, I
Go
was
ahead, go
just
ahead. Yeah.
thinking from what you were saying that just it seems like the lesson of this story and this kind of thing of acceptance doesn't mean necessarily forever accepting the whole situation, but just first getting your bearings and accepting rather than reacting immediately. And then you can kind of see what steps might need to be taken. Like,
Mhm.
is there a need for justice? Is there a need for to take someone down a peg or something like that? And I sort of think the bodyguard he does do that, but at the proper time. And so that seems to be an indication that someone should, yeah, not react and accept how that what is, whether there's wrong parts to it or not. And then trying to go forward with wisdom and being willing to really sacrifice time and effort to try to make it right in the right way, where, like the bodyguard did that, where the nobleman ended up being better after the 6 years, rather than maybe if he had been forced to accept the situation of the bodyguard and his daughter, maybe he would always hold that against them or something like that, and then when he finally falls and loses his fortune, he's messed up psychologically to where he can't be useful to the king anymore. He can't be useful to other people. He doesn't have a relationship with his daughter. Her kid doesn't know his grandfather. So like the way the king's bodyguard does it, he does everything's better in the end
Mhm.
if it's
Mhm.
possible. It's that seems like a good way to so not react and bring wisdom into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like obviously we can't always know the perfect moment. I don't mean that you're saying that, but like as a goal, as an ideal to strive for, or in the very least as a reason to consider the situation of everybody that's involved and try, as a way of accepting the situation, like you're saying, that makes a lot of sense just as a personal moral. Which also does, I wanted to say that also does kind of resolve my my conundrum I was talking about before about like, well, if reality is kind of trustworthy and bad things are a way of um, sort of helping us prepare or grow or evolve or whatever, um, that's something that I can use as a personal moral thing for myself. And it's not something that I can use aggressively on somebody else. So
Yeah.
it's a way
Yeah.
to get the beam out of my eye if I'm lucky, if I'm real lucky, or at least start to work with whatever that is. But it's never something that should be turned on somebody else because that's none of my business. And I don't know what their situation is. I don't know what's going on inside of them. And trying to apply it from the outside doesn't even work because
That's
I
right.
don't have all the answers. So
That's right.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
something in them that could be, but who knows what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I agree with all that. And I think please like and subscribe for more of our open minded content and comment below on your thoughts or questions about the story. Let us know if you'd like us to cover another stimulating story, and thank you for participating.